I didn't think much of it when Mom asked me to help her clean out the attic. She was always sentimental about old clothes and boxes full of forgotten memories. I thought we'd find dusty photo albums, broken ornaments, maybe a few faded dresses from her college years. But instead, we found the trunk. It was pink, velvet-lined, with a tiny gold lock that clicked open like it had been waiting for years. Inside, lace, silk, ribbons, wigs, makeup palettes, heels far too high for comfort. I chuckled awkwardly. What is this? Mom smiled with a glint I didn't understand. My old dress-up kit. I used to dream of having a daughter to share it with. That's when she said it. Just for fun, try something on. Just once. No one will ever know. I laughed. Mom, seriously? You're home all summer, bored out of your mind. Come on, live a little. I hesitated, but there was something in her tone teasing but commanding that nudged me forward. Fine, I sighed. One outfit. Then we burn this trunk. Deal, she grinned, already rifling through the pile like a child on Christmas morning. 15 minutes later, I stood in front of the mirror wearing a pale pink sundress. It clung a little too perfectly to my frame. Mom had even added a wig blonde, shoulder length, and curled at the ends. She dabbed makeup on my cheeks, lips, and lashes. Say something girly, she joked. I rolled my eyes. This is embarrassing. But then I saw myself. Not as a joke. Not as a boy in a dress. But as someone else. And that someone looked oddly at peace. See? Mom said gently behind me. You look beautiful. I swallowed hard. The room felt warmer than before. Or maybe my cheeks were just flushed. I look weird, I muttered. You look soft, she corrected. She pulled out her phone. Mom, no photos. Relax. Just one. I won't send it to anyone. Click. The shutter echoed louder than it should have. And something about the moment felt like a door quietly closing behind me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I felt ashamed, but because I didn't. That was the strange part. I expected to feel disgusted, or guilty, or confused. But instead, I just kept remembering how light the dress felt, how kind my reflection looked, how free. I tried to shake it off. It was just dress up. A one-time thing. Mom was only playing. She said it herself. Just for fun. Right? The next morning, I came downstairs in my usual hoodie and shorts. Mom was already in the kitchen, sipping tea and scrolling on her tablet. She looked up at me, smiled softly, and said, You know, that color yesterday really suited you. I shrugged. It was just a one-time thing, remember? Of course, she said. But I was thinking if you're still bored, we could try something more classic today. Maybe something floral. I blinked. Mom? She laughed. Okay. I just thought it was fun. You seemed happy. I didn't respond, because deep down I knew she wasn't wrong. Later that afternoon, when the summer heat became unbearable, I went back up to the attic. The trunk was still open. The dress from yesterday had been neatly folded, almost like it was waiting for me. I hesitated, then reached for something else, a light blue blouse with short puffed sleeves and a high collar. I held it up, feeling the fabric slip between my fingers. For some reason, my heartbeat quickened. I tried it on. Just the blouse, I told myself. But one glance in the mirror, and I added a skirt. And then the wig. By the time Mom walked in, I had even touched up the makeup from the day before. She didn't seem surprised. Instead, she beamed. You're getting good at this, sweetheart. I froze. You said this was just for fun. It still is, she said calmly. Fun doesn't have to end after one try, does it? Her words sat between us, heavy and strange. Then she asked almost casually, Would you mind if I called you something a little prettier while you're dressed up? I hesitated. What do you mean? Well, just for today, she said, walking over to straighten the wig. Let's call you Liana. It suits you, doesn't it? I looked back in the mirror. Liana. I didn't say no. I didn't say anything. And that silence gave her all the permission she needed. That evening, we ate dinner like nothing had changed. Except I was still wearing the blouse and skirt. Mom didn't ask me to take them off. She didn't even glance at them oddly. In fact, she complimented how gracefully I held my fork and how ladylike I looked sitting at the table. It should have made me feel awkward, but instead, it made me sit up straighter. By the end of the meal, she handed me a napkin and said, "Good girls always dab, not wipe." I dabbed. She smiled. The next morning, my regular clothes were missing from the laundry basket. When I asked, she said casually, "They're in the wash. Try something from the trunk for today, just until your things are dry." I didn't argue. That's what startled me most. I didn't fight it. I walked up to the attic and pulled out a light sundress with a lilac sash. It was already ironed. It fit better than I expected. When I came down for breakfast, Mom simply said, "Liana, would you like coffee or tea today?" She didn't ask if I was still pretending. She just used the name. And again, I didn't correct her. We sat in silence while I sipped the tea. My voice sounded softer when I answered her next question. I hadn't even tried to change it, it just came out that way. It wasn't a game anymore, but I still told myself it was. Later that day, she asked if I wanted to try walking in heels. She said it like an offer, sweet, optional, but something about her tone made it feel expected. "I don't think I'll be any good," I muttered. She smiled gently. "Of course not at first. No one is. But we all start somewhere." She held out a pair of nude pumps with a modest heel, the kind that looked elegant but not exaggerated. "Just a few steps," she added, already clearing a path across the living room floor. I slid my feet in, wobbled, almost tipped forward. She steadied me, her hands warm on my shoulders. Chin up, back straight. Small steps, heel to toe. I followed her instructions. Awkward at first, but then something clicked. I was focused on balance, posture, presence. Each step was a little smoother than the last. My body felt unfamiliar, but somehow light, like I wasn't impersonating someone else, but unlocking a version of me that had been waiting quietly all along. Mom clapped softly as I reached the other side of the room. "Beautiful," she whispered. "Just like I imagined my daughter would be." That made me stop cold. I turned to her. "You keep saying that." "Saying what, sweetheart?" "My daughter. Liana. Like I'm really her." She tilted her head, studying me. "Well, aren't you?" I didn't have an answer, because I didn't know anymore. That night, I stood in front of the mirror for what felt like hours, still wearing the dress. The heels were off, but the imprint of their shape lingered in the soles of my feet. My face was still lightly made up, just enough blush to soften my cheeks, just enough gloss to tint my lips. I tried to see the boy underneath, but he was fading. Each time I tilted my head, adjusted a strand of the wig, or shifted my stance, the reflection looked more natural, more normal. It scared me, but it also comforted me. I turned away from the mirror, only to find Mom standing in the doorway. She didn't knock. She didn't need to. "I brought something," she said gently, holding a small box. Inside was a silver necklace with a delicate charm shaped like a butterfly. "It was mine when I was your age," she said. "I think it's time it had a new home." I don't know if I should. Why not? Because what if I'm not her? What if this is just a phase? She stepped closer, holding the necklace up to my neck. "Then wear it until you're sure. No pressure. But if you take it off, I want it to be your choice, not fears." She fastened the clasp behind my neck. The charm rested just above my collarbone. It was the lightest thing I'd ever worn, but somehow, it carried the most weight. The next few days blurred together. Every morning, there was a new outfit laid out for me, pressed, paired, coordinated. Sometimes soft pastels, other times bolder colors that Mom claimed matched Liana's growing confidence. She stopped asking if I wanted to dress up. It was simply assumed. If I hesitated, she gently reminded me, "We've come this far, sweetheart. You're doing so well." And I was at least on the outside. My walk had improved. My voice softened naturally. My movements were more deliberate, more delicate. Even the way I sat had changed, knees together, back straight, hands folded. But inside, a quiet storm brewed. Late at night, after brushing my hair 50 times like she'd shown me, I'd lie in bed and stare at the ceiling. Was this still a game? A test? Or had I passed some invisible point of no return? I wanted to ask her, but I was scared of her answer. One morning, I found my old jeans and t-shirt folded neatly on the edge of my bed. A note sat on top. If you want to go back, I won't stop you. But I hope you'll choose the clothes that reflect the real you. My hands hovered over the jeans. They felt unfamiliar, like they belonged to someone else. After a long moment, I pushed them aside and slipped into the soft, cream-colored blouse instead. I didn't wear the necklace that day, but I didn't take it off either. Later that afternoon, Mom asked if I wanted to go for a drive. Where? I asked cautiously. Just out, she said with a smile. You've been indoors for days. A little fresh air might help. I hesitated. Dress like this? She raised an eyebrow. You mean dress like yourself? I didn't answer. I just followed her to the car, the hem of my skirt brushing my thighs as I slid into the passenger seat. We didn't go far, just a quiet park on the edge of town. It was mostly empty, just a few joggers and a couple walking their dog. Still, I kept my head down as we walked. Mom didn't pressure me to talk. She just let me move at my own pace, occasionally glancing over with that patient expression of hers, the one that made me feel both seen and exposed. When we sat down on a bench, she finally spoke. You're not pretending anymore. Her voice was soft but certain. I looked at her, surprised. What do you mean? You've stopped flinching when I call you Liana. You don't trip over your steps in heels. You brush your hair without being asked. That's not pretend. I didn't respond right away. The breeze lifted a strand of my wig, and I tucked it behind my ear instinctively. She reached out and gently touched my hand. You're becoming her, she whispered. And I think you've always wanted to. You just didn't know it yet. I wanted to deny it, but I couldn't. Because the truth was, when she said Liana, I didn't hear a stranger's name anymore. I heard mine. That evening, when we returned home, everything felt quieter. Not the house, it was as still as ever. But inside me, something had settled. I walked past the mirror in the hallway and caught my reflection. I didn't stop this time. I didn't flinch. I didn't tilt my head to see if I could still spot the boy underneath. I just kept walking. In the kitchen, Mom had made tea. 2 cups. Mine had a thin slice of lemon and a sugar cube already melting at the bottom, just the way I'd started liking it. She didn't say much as we sat. She didn't have to. At one point, she reached into the drawer and pulled out a soft pink journal with gold edges. This is for you, she said. What for? Thoughts. Memories. Or things Liana might want to remember. I ran my fingers over the cover. You really think she's here to stay? I think, she said, watching me carefully. She's already been here. You're just finally letting her be seen. I wanted to argue. To say this was still a game, still temporary. That I'd go back to myself tomorrow. But I didn't. Because part of me didn't want to. And that was the scariest truth of all. The next morning, Mom knocked on my door earlier than usual. We have an appointment, she said from the hallway. I sat up, confused. For what? You'll see. Wear the pale lavender dress, we don't want to be late. I should have asked more questions. I should have hesitated. But instead, I stood up and reached for the dress she mentioned without even thinking. Lavender. Flowing. Soft lace sleeves. I slipped it on, styled my wig into a half-up twist like she'd shown me days before, and added a dab of gloss. By the time I came downstairs, she was already at the door with her purse in hand and keys dangling from her fingers. She smiled when she saw me. Perfect. The drive was quiet. I watched the world through the window. The town I'd grown up in looked smaller somehow, like it no longer had the same claim on me. When we finally stopped, I realized where we were. The salon. My heart jumped. Why are we here? I thought it was time for something real, Mom said gently. Only if you want it. She reached over and placed her hand on mine. You don't have to pretend anymore, Liana. You never did. But if you're ready, this could be a beginning. Inside, the smell of shampoo and hairspray hit me like a memory, I'd never lived. The stylist greeted us warmly. I stood frozen in the doorway until Mom leaned close and whispered, "Do it for her." "For Liana." I nodded and stepped inside. The stylist's name was Kara. She had kind eyes and didn't blink twice when Mom introduced me as her daughter. "Liana's ready for her first real style," Mom said casually. Kara turned to me. "Any ideas, sweetheart?" I froze. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. She smiled, sensing my nerves. "Let's just see what we're working with, okay?" The wig came off gently. She studied my natural hair, shaggy, uneven, untouched for months. Then she nodded, thoughtful. "I can shape this. Feminine, soft, natural, something that flatters your cheekbones." I nodded, barely breathing. With each snip of her scissors, more of the old me fell to the floor. I expected panic. Instead, I felt relief. Warm water, creams, dryers humming softly. Her hands were practiced, confident, like she'd done this transformation 100 times, and maybe she had. When it was done, she turned the chair around to face the mirror. For a second, I didn't recognize myself. The hair framed my face in gentle waves, brushing just past my shoulders. It was still me underneath, but somehow truer. Mom stood behind me, one hand on my shoulder, eyes shining. "You're beautiful," she whispered. I didn't speak. I just looked at my reflection. And for the first time since it all began, I smiled without pretending. That night, everything felt different. Even in the quiet comfort of my bedroom, with the lights low and the makeup wiped away, I couldn't stop brushing my fingers through my hair. My real hair. It still felt strange, not the texture, but the fact that it was mine now. Styled, shaped, and feminine by choice. Not Mom's. Not anyone else's. Mine. The pink journal sat on my desk, unopened until now. I picked it up, curled into bed, and flipped to the first page. The pen hovered in my hand for a while before I finally began to write. I used to think this was temporary. A game. But today I saw someone in the mirror I couldn't look away from. Not because she was perfect, but because she was me. And I think maybe she's been waiting a long time to be seen. The next morning, I didn't wait for Mom to lay out clothes. I chose my own soft peach blouse, pleated skirt, and the silver butterfly necklace I had tucked away for days. When I came downstairs, she looked up from her tea, surprised for only a moment. Then she smiled, not with pride, but with understanding. "You made your choice," she said. I nodded. "No more pretending," I answered softly. She reached for my hand across the table. "Welcome home, Liana." Summer drifted on, but everything had changed. I still helped Mom with chores, still watched TV on the couch, still sat in the backyard with a book and a glass of lemonade, but it was different now. I moved through the house like I belonged in my own skin. Like the space around me had adjusted to fit someone it had never truly known before. Sometimes I caught her watching me, not with judgment, not even curiosity, but quiet reassurance. She didn't need to say anything anymore. She had won. Or rather, Liana had. One afternoon, I opened my closet and realized my old clothes were gone. Not hidden. Gone. Replaced with skirts, blouses, soft knits, and pastel dresses. Flats, sandals, and 3 pairs of heels I had learned to walk in without wobbling. My first instinct was to panic. But then I looked at the empty space where the jeans and hoodies used to be and felt nothing. No grief. No fear. Just a quiet understanding. I had let go of who I used to be. And now, Mom was simply making room for who I was becoming. As the sun dipped below the trees that night, Mom knocked on my door. "I made something for you," she said, holding out a small framed picture. It was the photo she took that first day, me in the pink sundress, awkward, uncertain, half smiling. But underneath, in delicate calligraphy, she had written, "Day 1 of becoming you." I stared at it for a long time, then placed it on my desk beside the journal. And for the first time since this all began, I wasn't waiting to change back. I wasn't afraid of what came next. Because whatever it was, it would be me who chose it. I started waking up before Mom. Not because I had to. Because I wanted time. Time to moisturize, time to pick the right outfit, time to glide the lipstick on without smudging it and fix the eyeliner without rushing. I'd started wearing light foundation, a bit of blush, and sometimes even curled my eyelashes. It wasn't about pleasing her anymore. It was about me. There was something peaceful in the routine. I no longer saw it as dressing up, I saw it as preparing myself for the day. As if Liana was real now and expected to be seen. Not by the world, but by me. Mom noticed. She never said it out loud, but she started leaving more deliberate gifts for me to discover. A soft pink robe appeared on my bed one morning. A new shade of lip tint just happened to show up in the bathroom drawer. She even bought me a little vanity mirror with lights. And I accepted them. Every single one. But the outside world didn't stop. Summer was ending. And that meant family. A phone call came in one evening from Aunt Jen, cheerful, nosy, and completely unaware. She wants to stop by next weekend. Mom told me over dinner. She'll expect to see you. My fork paused midair. In what way? Mom didn't answer right away. She reached across the table and brushed a strand of hair behind my ear. In whatever way you choose, she said quietly. But I think you already know what that means. I wanted to protest. To say I wasn't ready. But was that true? What scared me wasn't being seen as Liana. It was the idea of being seen again as the person I used to be. And I didn't want to go back. In the days leading up to Aunt Jen's visit, Mom helped me get ready not with pressure, but with gentle guidance. We practiced sitting postured and polite. She showed me how to speak clearly but softly, how to tilt my head when listening, how to hold a teacup without looking stiff. I watched old videos of myself. I didn't recognize that boy anymore. There was a moment one evening when Mom stood beside me as I looked into the hallway mirror. I was wearing a pale floral dress, nude flats, and the butterfly necklace. She said, I don't think I've ever been more proud. That's when I asked it. The question that had been hiding under all the eyeliner and gloss. Do you love me more this way? She didn't flinch. I've always loved you. But I think now you're finally letting me see you. And somehow, that hurt and healed at the same time. The morning Aunt Jen was coming, I woke up with a pit in my stomach. My hands trembled as I brushed out my hair, each stroke more deliberate than the last. I stared into the mirror and tried to see what she would see. Would she recognize me? Would she even believe it? Mom peeked in and gave me a reassuring nod. You look lovely, sweetheart. I wore a soft blue dress, modest, simple, but with a cinched waist and delicate lace trim at the collar. I'd chosen it carefully. Not flashy, not bold, just safe. We sat in the living room, waiting. I could hear the sound of Aunt Jen's car pulling into the driveway. Her voice came next, loud and bright, as usual. Then a knock. Mom opened the door. And there she was. Where's the boy hiding? She joked, stepping in and pulling her sunglasses off. You didn't lose him in all that makeup and perfume, did you? I froze. Mom stepped aside. And I stood up. Hi, Aunt Jen, I said softly. It's me. Her smile faltered just for a moment. Her eyes scanned me from head to toe, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. Then something unexpected happened. She blinked and smiled again. Well, I'll be damned, she said, walking over and giving me a light hug. You are so much prettier than your mom ever was at your age. Mom laughed. I blushed. For the rest of the visit, Aunt Jen didn't mention my name or my past.
She just talked to me.
Complimented my posture. Asked about my favorite colors. Told me stories about her wild college years. When she finally left, she hugged me tighter than before and whispered, Be who you are, honey. It suits you. I stood at the door for a long time after she drove off. Mom placed a hand on my back. See? I turned to her. I think I'm ready, I said. For what? To be seen. Outside this house. Mom's smile faded, just a little. You know that means letting go completely. I nodded. I already have.